I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Arakwal people of the Bundjalung Nation, and pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Human Design Podcast with me, your host, Emma Dunwoody. I'm a qualified master coach and human behaviour specialist, as well as being a qualified human design coach. And I work with clients every single day to answer the big questions. Who am I? Why am I here? And what is my purpose? I also assist them to transition from the person they think they should be to the person they really are on the inside. I teach people how to actually live their design instead of just knowing it. And if this is something that you want to do too, well, stay tuned or reach out for private coaching or Human Design Unpacks, where I show you exactly how to live your design.
Hey everyone, and welcome to today's episode. I'm excited to share a conversation with two humans that I feel like have been, a part of my growth journey over the years. Today, I'm speaking with Melissa Ambrosini and Nick Broadhurst. So Melissa is a 3-5 sacral generator, the right angle cross of the Maya, and Nick is a 5-1 emotional manifesting generator, left angle cross of Duality. Melissa Ambrosini is a best-selling author, top-rated podcaster, speaker, and entrepreneur. Named a self-help guru by Elle Magazine, Melissa is the author of Mastering Your Mean Girl, Open Wide, Comparisonitis, Time Magic, and the Audible Original PurposeFULL, as well as the writer of the best eBooks of all time, as voted by Depository. Melissa is the host of the #1 rated podcast, The Melissa Ambrosini Show, where she shares her wisdom and interviews with the biggest thought leaders and experts in the world to help her audience unlock their full potential and live their dream life. Also on this episode is Melissa's husband, Nick Broadhurst, also known as Enobi. He is a renowned singer-songwriter and producer, a former member of Sneaky Sound System, a meditation advocate, author, visual artist, podcaster, entrepreneur, father, and husband. Uniting these varied accomplishments is the driving force behind all his work, the pure expression of creativity through music and sharing his most valuable moments in life. While he may be a tenacious and complicated character, there's no missing his lush, cinematic pop orchestrations combined with simple, heartfelt lyrics delivered by a passionate and honest voice. These two humans are just divine. Between the books and the podcast and the music, they have been a part of my life. They've been a part of my growth journey over the last decade or so. In this episode, we talk a little bit to their connection chart and how they can continue to develop as the incredible couple that they are. And of course, we talk about their new book, Time Magic, which really is a fantastic collection of everything you need to really get the most out of your life. So I will leave you to enjoy the conversation. Hey, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. I am so excited to share today's guests with you because, obviously this is the first time they're meeting me, but I feel like you guys have been a little bit a part of my life for a very long time because I've read all the books, I've listened to all the podcasts, you guys have been a part of my life for a long time. So first and foremost, I want to say thank you. And of course, welcome to Melissa Ambrosini and Nick Broadhurst.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
It is super exciting to have you guys here. I'm going to share, because otherwise I get overexcited and forget to do it, your human design for our listeners. So Melissa is a 3-5 sacral generator, cross of the Maya, and Nick is a 5-1 emotional MG, cross of Duality. So there's a lot of energy that's going on in this relationship. And I really want to get to what we call your connection chart, which is how your two charts come together, because there's a way that we can look at this chart and see the area of a relationship that is probably going to be your greatest growth area. And for you guys, because again, I know the backstory, I know what you guys have been talking about for many years, it's like all the work that you've been doing in the world. But before we get to that, I want to sort of start out with kind of introducing you to my audience. A lot of my audience is in the States, so maybe a few of them don't know who you are. So do you want to give everyone a little bit of a background about, maybe some of the catalyst or what started to create what you've created today and who you are today?
Okay, I'll go first. Is that in my design for me to go first?
Well, you are a manifesting generator, so there is a bit of that, yeah.
Okay, so look, my history is in the early 2000s. For about 7 years, I was in a very well-known band here in Australia, probably the biggest band at the time, called Sneaky Sound System. Was very successful, and I was married back then to someone else and had a child, Leo, who's now 17, which is crazy.
Wow.
And the band was going extremely well, all over the radio, multiple ARIA awards. But I was away from Leo too much, decided to leave the band. I went into real estate, of all things, which actually would totally suit Manifesting Generator for sure. And was very successful at that. But through that process, I ended up with a marriage falling apart, severe financial stress due to a whole bunch of different things happening at the time. And I was exposed to a heavy, heavy load of toxic mold when renovating a 120-year-old house. And it basically shut my body down. I was in hospital for a couple of weeks with viral meningitis. And that was the trigger for me to end up basically bedridden for about 3 years. It was a shocking period. But from that, I arose from the ashes and here I am. And I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today or with Melissa, I think, if I hadn't gone through that experience. So I went back into my music after that. I've been a solo artist now since 2015. There's many things that I do, from investing to building businesses, music.
True manifesting generator style, 5,000 things going on at once.
Yeah, exactly.
We're building our dream home at the moment, obviously a father, a husband. So there's lots going on. That sums me up. Would you like to add anything to my story? Are you pretty happy with that? You're
also the CEO of my business too. Just to add like another hat that he wears.
I love that. The person that I hired as my support person, who is now being trained up as my CEO, has this same. She's also a 5/1 manifesting generator, and I got to tell you, those 5/1s running businesses, I love it. They're really good at that stuff.
I'll remember that.
Yeah. In those moments.
Yeah, he is very good. And one of the things about Nick is that he is very good at many, many, many things. And it's really interesting because before I understood human design, and when we first got together, I would kind of look at him and be like, why don't you just do one thing? Like, why are you investing and in real estate and, a musician and the CEO of my business and in crypto? Like, I didn't understand, because me, true generator styles, like I just laser in on one thing and I go for it. And then I write the book and then I'm on to the next thing, where Nick has 5 different tabs open at one time. And it's it's also, there's the light of it and then there's the shadow of that. So I used to think, why can't he just do one thing? But now I realize it's a beautiful trait of his and it's part of his design. So yeah, he's got his fingers in lots of different pies and he seems to manage it with such ease and grace. And the way that—
Not always.
Well, he has to follow the principles in time magic to be able to get everything done that he needs to get done. So when he is very disciplined and structured and organized and living the time magic way, life flows very gracefully for you.
I love it. I'm also a manifesting generator and I totally get it. And I think that one of the big permission slips for me was that, doing all the things actually gave me more energy to do those things. Whereas whenever I was trying to just focus on the one thing, I had no energy for anything. So it was really, fascinating to watch that shift into, well, actually, no, I want to be juggling a few things, not too many things, but a few things. So yeah, totally get that. Awesome. Melissa, do you want to tell everyone a little bit about your journey?
Yes. So my journey really began, well, when I was born, but my big catalyst was 2010. So up until then, I was a professional dancer. I danced at the Moulin Rouge in Paris. I did acting. Had a little stint on Home and Away and Packed to the Rafters. I did TV presenting and a little bit of modeling. And I loved it until I didn't love it anymore, until it started to really eat away at my soul and really, affect my mental health. And I kept on ignoring all of these warning signs to kind of shift and stop and slow down and not live the way that I was living, burning the candle at both ends. And it took a really big wake-up call for me in October 2010, where I ended up in hospital. Really interesting. Nick and I did not know each other, and we were both in hospital around the same time, going through these huge life-altering experiences, not knowing each other, but in the same state, but both going through these huge things.
Different state.
Oh, no, yes. Yeah, well, I was living in Sydney. We were both living in Sydney at the time. And that was really interesting. So we were both going through these huge transformations, a lot of pain, a lot of inner healing work that needed to happen. Definitely, the dark night of the soul type moment.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was 2010. And I remember being in hospital, and I had just kind of started dabbling in spirituality and yoga and Kundalini yoga. And I started going to the health food shop and all of those things. And I had a friend at the time. They created a little beautiful care package for me that they sent to the hospital. And in that care package was a book that really changed my life. And that book was Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life. And I remember reading this book, and I was like flicking through it, and my mom and my dad were with me at the time by my side. And I would turn to my mom and I'm like, Mom, why didn't you tell me this? Like, why have you not told me that we create our own reality? Why have you not shared this golden information with me? And she's like, oh, darling, I was doing the best that I could, at that time. And granted, they absolutely were, and they're beautiful parents. And that really was the catalyst that changed everything for me. I dove head first from there into spirituality, into personal development, into health and wellness. And I went and studied holistic nutrition. I went and studied life coaching, health coaching. I did my yoga teacher training. I did my meditation teacher training. I studied all of these things. I read every book that I could get my hands on. I started a blog, and I began sharing what I was learning on this blog. And this was in 2011, and this was way before blogs were even a big thing. And I began blogging every single day, sharing what I was learning about health and wellness and mindset. And it was resonating so deeply with people. People would start stopping me in the streets and asking me how I moved through that challenge with my body image stuff or eating disorder, or they would come up to me and say, oh, my inner mean girl told me not to come up to you and say anything, but I really wanted to say hello. And from there, I started doing workshops, started coaching one-on-one, started to get booked for this as this thing called a motivational speaker. And I was like, what even is a motivational speaker? I'd never even heard of one. And it all kind of snowballed from there. I got approached from one of the biggest publishers in the world, HarperCollins, and they said, we love your blog and we think you should write a book. And that's how Mastering Your Mean Girl was born, from that conversation. And I started a podcast. 5 books later, a #1 top-rated podcast, and live events and programs, meditations, Holy Mama. I've got a journal, and it's kind of just all snowballed from that one pivotal moment in the hospital bed all those years ago.
I love that. And I work a lot with purpose. And I often share that your purpose is born in that dark night of the soul, because so often people are looking for their purpose in a very mind-centric, like, what is that sentence or what is that one thing? And I'm like, it's the journey. It's the journey from that dark night of the soul. You're already on it. So I love that story. Thank you so much. So you guys have written this book, and I actually have to read because I loved it. When I heard it, I was like, that is brave and bold. And I mean, I've read freaking thousands of books, and I was like, well, it's a bold statement. And that is, don't you love how organized I am? It was here a minute ago. So the promise, your big promise of this book, which is called Time Magic, is that this book will deliver more value than any other book you have ever read, or at least any book you've read in the last 10 years. And I listened to this and I'm like, God, I love a bold statement. I think this is brilliant. So, I kind of read this amazing book with that sitting in the back of my mind. And just for me to summarize it, so many of the things that you guys teach in this book, they're already a part of my life. However, it's taken me 20 years to create this life and to create these habits and routines and these things, and run the experiment and see what works for me and what doesn't work for me. So I'm going to say that bold statement is really powerful, because it's like all of this stuff, and it sounds like it's similar for you. You've had this long journey of experimenting and learning and throwing out what doesn't work and keeping what does work and putting it all into one book. And one book that, I went into it going, oh, it's about time. Cool. I love this. I teach this. This is great. But it's so much more than that. It's longevity. It's health and fitness. It's passion. It's meaning. And you finish the book, and it's a bit of a spoiler, guys. I'm sorry, but I love this question. I have to share it. With this question, how will you measure your life? Oh my God, I love a big question like that. So tell us a little bit about the inspiration for writing this book, and, why you wanted it out in the world.
Yeah, so Time Magic was something that we wrote in a slightly different form about 4 years ago. We wrote 80,000 words of a book that was called 79 Marbles at the time, which is a whole other story. But we were sitting with it, we're like, we like it and it's good, but we're not sure if it's the time to release it. And just at that time, Melissa's publisher rang, and Melissa thought, okay, look, there's something else coming through to me which feels more pertinent right now, and that is Comparisonitis. So she wrote Comparisonitis instead, and the publisher got on board. We published that globally, which did well. And then about a year ago, or maybe 18 months ago, again, Harper came back to us. What's happening with that book we signed? Like, what's going on? Because we think now is the time. And we're like, okay. And so we went back and revisited it, and we read it. We're like, yes, so much of this is relevant and ready to go, but we can now see it more clearly. And we kind of rewrote the book. We cut it down to 65,000 words, I think, and renamed it to Time Magic. We came up with a more succinct, I guess, overall theme for the book. And it just came to life. And all of a sudden we realized this book is really freaking special. And it's not a book, to be clear, it's not a book about time management. And I want people to really understand that.
Yeah.
It's about creating space in your life to have a more meaningful life.
Nick is missing a ginormous piece of this story, and that is that this book was not meant to be born until I became a mother, because time is a completely different thing when you are a mother, as you know. Mm-hmm. And if it came out 4 years ago, I wasn't yet a mother. So we needed to rewrite it from the lens of me being a mother. And so, yeah, that was a huge piece of it. Why I feel like it was like, not yet, just wait, go write Comparisonitis. And that came through to me in a meditation. It was like, no, this is not the time. Let's just park that over there and let's Comparisonitis. And that's when we went into COVID, and, everyone was at home. sitting on their phones, comparing themselves to others. So Comparisonitis was perfect timing. And now I feel like this book is perfect timing because everyone's kind of come out of COVID and they're wanting to create a life beyond what they have been told. They want to have more meaning in their life. Like, this is a question I ask myself almost daily. It's like, am I really living my life? Am I really living my life? Like, there's no point in me teaching people how to live their life if I'm not truly living my life. And so what does that mean for me? And this is what we get you to discover in the book. Like, what does a meaningful life mean for you? Is that volunteering at homeless shelters? Like, what is it for you? And often we're not forced to sit and answer these bigger questions. And so the book really gets you to do that, to ask those big questions so that you are living a life that is true for you and your family and in accordance with your values. And also it shifts. So these questions are to be asked at all different seasons of your life, different times throughout the year, different seasons, because I can tell you it's definitely changed for me since having a baby, and it's continuously changing. So it's such a powerful book. And like you said, it's not just a book about time. It's about living a life that is meaningful and on purpose and in alignment for you.
I love that. And you know what it makes me think as well, like the way the book is set up, you take people through this process of what I would say is clearing the space, like getting, like first making the space and then helping them step into meaning. So I think that in itself is hugely powerful because, as we've said, I'm a manifesting generator. I'm a 3/5 like you, Melissa. And, like I just threw everything at everything. Like I had 2 young children. I was in a 3-year master coach program. I was starting my own business. I was supporting my husband who had a big corporate job and was all over traveling all over the world. And I was trying to do everything. And I didn't realize that I could, structure it or clear it or do things in different ways. It took me time to work that out. So I love that about the book. And I also have to respond to the piece about being a mother, because my experience is that when I shifted, so I left advertising, I worked in advertising, had a very successful career, and got to that point. I burnt out so many times, but it was that I am selling my soul to the devil. And I've always had this mission in me to leave the planet better than I found it. And that knowing on the daily that I was like, I'm pretty confident I'm making the planet worse, not better, doing this work. So that's what made me shift. But at the time I was deep in depression, in panic disorder. It was a really challenging time. So by the time I'd started my business and I was doing the study and I had 2 young children, and I was being taught, and I was reading all of these books, and I was being taught by men, and I was being taught this whole, just do it, just find time, just work it out. You can do it. You can do whatever you want to do. If you don't have something, it's just because you're not prioritizing it. And so I nearly killed myself trying to do all of the things. And I think I love hearing the stories throughout the book. And I love this piece that you've just spoken to, because we can do all the things and have kids. But one of the things that I look back on now is the time I didn't spend with them, the time that I was stressed out or I was in anxiety. So I love that you're so consciously aware that it was important that you became a mother so that you could support so many other women that are going through this, and men that want to be with their kids in this way.
Absolutely. It's so important. And for some people, they're happy to go back to work full time and, see their kids in the morning and then in the evening. And that's cool. Like, you've just got to do what feels right and true for you. But since coming back to work, I had a year of maternity leave and now my daughter's too. So this last year I've been back in work, and it has been the most challenging year of my life because matrescence, that shift from maiden to mother, and really dancing between these 2 worlds of motherhood and work, and really not knowing where I fit. And it's been so stretching. And for me to do my work, it has to be so good to take me away from her. I have to enjoy what I'm doing so much. Like, for example, I had this meeting, long story, but our Facebook pages were hacked. I had this Facebook meeting. I was in this Facebook meeting for an hour, and I got off the meeting and I just cried. And I was like, that's an hour that I just took away from my daughter that I will never get back ever again. And so I was like, right, things need to shift here. I am no longer doing Facebook meetings, or whatever it is. Like, when you become a mother, you get so shiny diamond clear on what is important to you. I know what's important to me. And so our dynamic has shifted too. Like, everything has shifted. He has supported me in so much of my dreams and my business. And it's like, I really want to support the home. Like, it's everything shifting, and it's so beautiful. And we've got to be adaptable. We truly have to be adaptable, and we have to pivot and pivot fast. And I think having a partner who's open and on the same page is really, really helpful, which I'm so excited when we get to the part where we talk about our dynamic in human design. I'm really interested in that because I've looked at it in astrology as well. But yeah, it's a big journey. It's big. And I think the way that we're doing business, it's shifting. Things are shifting. Things are shifting in the online space at the moment. There's a lot happening, and we've got to evolve, and we've got to keep up with the shifts and constantly tune into what feels right for me. Does this feel right for me now? Cool, keep doing it. If not, let's shift.
I love that. And I think that this is a large part of what so many of us, especially the listeners to this podcast, like, we are forging a new way. I really resonate with, sharing your family stories. One of the things with me, with my business, is that it's like my kids are fully integrated into my business. So when I'm running retreats, my eldest actually works at the retreats. He wants to be a part of it. My youngest is as well, but it's more about swimming in the pool. But, when I actually started doing in-person retreats, there was part of me that was like, oh my goodness, I need to be professional. I can't have my husband and my kids there. And then in the next moment, I'm like, my entire brand is about the whole family. Of course, they can all be there. So it's also having that courage to, create really what's in our heart and really follow that, because there's so many people out there that also need the permission to create whatever they want to create and integrate their family and their work or whatever it is that lights them up in the same way. So I love that. Thank you. I actually want to ask, I'm going to get couple things. Don't you worry about that, because it's some really cool stuff, especially because of the work that you guys have done as a couple in the past. But I want to talk about, to make sure we get there, in the book, two of the areas that perhaps people wouldn't think about, from a time perspective, that I think is so important, is money. I love that you actually go through the process of simplifying money. I was actually teaching on this the other day. One of the most challenging times I ever had was the day I decided to go through my entire money stuff. And, I had the Barefoot Investor, had the book out, I had my Mac on my lap. I am bawling my eyes out because I'm so uncomfortable. But it was also this time that I took back my power, and, everything money-wise really shifted from that point. So I'd really love to talk about the money hacks. And then I want to move into the fact that you even talk about longevity. So how can we get more time?
Yeah, look, the money hacks, the most important thing with money, and there's plenty of strategies in there on how to, like, where to allocate your money, how much to allocate towards living expenses, towards knocking off bad debts, to fun time, all these sorts of things. So there's really, really cool stuff in there. It's my version on it's basically what we do. It's different to what you'll see in Barefoot, these other things, but it's sort of, there's similarities there. Ultimately, my whole mission with Time Magic, when I was ever writing something that was technical, whether it was Tick or Flick, which is the productivity system, or the wealth stuff, was how do we boil this down to something even more simple, right? Because I don't want to, because productivity on its own can be 300 pages of a book, right?
Yeah.
Which is not productive.
No.
So I wanted to make sure Tick or Flick, I created that because I wanted to make sure people could do it in a few pages. And it's so powerful. And the wealth stuff's very similar. Now, the biggest thing with money, and this is what Barefoot's so good at, the biggest thing with wealth is to look at the numbers. Like, don't bury your head in the sand. I think I might refer to it as ostrich strategy, or maybe
You
he
do,
does.
yep.
Someone does. I think I did. Yeah. Okay. So, and for so long, I buried my head in the sand. So did Melissa when it came to money. And my biggest words of encouragement for people listening to this is go through the exercises in Time Magic with your money, step by step, and make it a conscious choice that you're going to keep your money very visible, right, to yourself. And one of my best friends, James, he and I have made a commitment to each other that every month we catch up and we are very transparent with where our money's going and what we're investing in. We both have goals where we want to be in 10 years with our net wealth and passive income. And we are making steps, whether it's $100, $1,000, $100,000, doesn't matter. The point is the energy has to be moving in the direction of accumulating wealth. And, so many people I've seen feel like wealth is, you don't talk about it. You don't talk about numbers. You don't talk about money.
Yeah.
Why not, man? Like this, it is so freaking important in this world that we operate in. Let's bring it out. Like bring the freaking P&L out. Let's talk about it.
I don't know why it is so taboo. It's really ridiculous because yesterday we were at the beach having a sunset beach dinner picnic with our friends, which is a core value of ours. And we're down there and our friends have had their house on the market and they said, we have an offer. And I was like, amazing. And I instantly was like, oh, I can't ask them how much. But then she's like, she could see that I was uncomfortable. She's like, oh yeah, we sold it for da-da-da. And I was like, why did I just like retract a little bit when I wanted to ask out of curiosity? Like, just, I want to know what the market's doing around this area. To be honest, I'm like, what's the market doing? Because we own in this area. And so it was really interesting. It is, money, sex, relationships, all of these things that society has deemed taboo. It's ridiculous because us sharing our stories is how we help each other. That is how we help each other. That's how we grow. So I just think it's ridiculous. And I just want to say, if it is a topic that is taboo for you, then let's bring it into the light.
Yeah, I was going to add to that. I think the reason for that is because we connect our self-worth with our net worth.
Yeah.
And
which is just absolutely,
well, it's conditioning, right?
Wild.
Exactly. It's conditioning. We've been taught to think that way. We've been, there's so much research now to show, or not research, but there's so much evidence now that we can look back to the Industrial Revolution and there was conscious decisions made about the way people were taught in schools, the way people were spoken to and treated in business, even the way the 40-hour work week came about. It's like, it's so ingrained in our unconscious mind.
Yeah. And I think that, if you feel like you're adding value to the world, but you're not being compensated for that, then, because really the amount of money in your bank account a lot of the time reflects the value you add to the world, but not always, but a lot of the time it does. But if you're adding a lot of value, but not being compensated, then you just need to charge more. You just haven't got the right offer. It's that simple. You need to up the self-worth to increase your net worth. And something we love doing when we work with people is like, all right, you're charging $100 for that. Let's charge $10,000 for that. And really pushing the limits on what people feel they're worth.
I think it's such an important point because so often, especially in the spiritual world, there's still this gap that if you're doing something spiritual that there's some, like it's wrong that you would get paid for it. And it's so not true. Like you say, like we need resources to provide resources. We need it to go both ways to be able to be out in the world and doing the work that we're doing. So yeah, I love that. Do you want to talk a little bit to the longevity piece, to the way that you even create, these really clear areas in our life that we can do better, whether it's physically, emotionally, eating?
Yeah, so we didn't feel like we could write a book about time and reclaiming your time, reclaiming your life without talking about health and longevity, because the average person lives till 79. So subtract whatever age you are now, and that's what the average has left, right? And for us, that is just not even good enough. So we're aiming for 120, right? We are going there. And our decisions today will affect that. It's the little things you do that add up to big results or big consequences. And we want to go to 120, right? But we want to go there and still be doing yoga and running around with our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren. Like we still want to be doing that. Well, sorry, great-grandchildren. We want to be doing that, right? We don't want to get to that later time in our life and be riddled with disease and cancer and all sorts of things. Like, no, thank you. And so it's the things that we do today that are going to affect those years later in life. Now, Nick and I have both had our health taken away from us. We have both been in hospital. Like Nick said, he was bedridden and not working for 3 years. 3 years. And for me, I've been on my health journey as well for many, many years. And so we know what it's like to not have our health. So for us, health is such a core value. Like some people might look at us and think that we are quote unquote extreme or whatever because we have a water filtration system on our whole house or whatever. And some people might think that that's extreme. However, we've been on the other end and we know what it's like to not have it. And so for us, it's such a core pillar of our life. And so we wanted to add in, and we get asked about it all the time. We get asked about health and longevity. And so we had to put in all of our time magic health hacks and all of our time magic longevity tips and tricks. And so there is a whole bunch in there. And these are not things like stem cells and all of these crazy wild plasma treatments. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about everyday longevity. We're talking about things that you can do today that will extend your life. For example, one of them is optimizing your sleep. You would be surprised, babe, at how many people just don't have this optimized. And we spend such a huge portion of our life sleeping, and it is so important for every function in our entire body, and it's not optimized. And so many people are like, oh, well, I'll go do the infrared saunas and I'll go do the ice baths and I'll go do the stem cells. And I'm like, no, you haven't even got the low-hanging fruit sorted. And so we talk about that, things like sleep, nutrition, water, all of these things that you tweak today will really move the needle with your health.
I love that. I think it's so interesting because my husband and I are well and truly into the whole biohacking. I mean, I've been following Luke's story forever. But there's this whole, you have to have, in many cases, a lot of money to do these things. And we have a lot of, we're very grateful that we have the opportunity to have access to those things. But I love that in this book, it's like you call it constantly this low-hanging fruit. Like sleep is so important. I mean, I wear an Aura ring just for my sleep. I'm not really interested in the steps. I'm a very active person, but tweaking it. And it's been, does reading help me sleep better? Does meditating help me sleep better? Does CBD oil help me sleep better? Does 5-HTP help me sleep better? So, that experiment for me has been really, really important. And I love how everything in this book is really easy and accessible, that you can go out and do it straight away. So I just think that is so important. And I also love, I'm heading for 150. My husband and I want 150. And as you say, still running around, having a great time. I mean, we're both 48 at the moment. So I think we're quite happy with the way our vitality is at the moment, which is really cool. I want to pivot a little bit and talk about your human design, because even just watching the way you guys work together, obviously you're both generators, which means that you both have definition in the sacral, which means that you guys are constantly following what lights you up. You're not being influenced by the other. You're not sort of draining each other's energy in that way. But when we actually put your two charts together, what happens is you get full definition within the chart, except for the G center. So the G center is the center that sits right in the heart space. It is it correlates to the heart chakra, and its theme, if you like, is higher consciousness. It is love, lovability, and direction. Now, when we put your two charts together, that is what we call undefined. So whatever the centers are that are undefined in our connection chart, this is going to be the area of our design or the area of our relationship that we do the most work on, that this is where our greatest area of growth is. And I think it's fascinating. It's the same center for myself and my husband, and we're coming up to 23 years married. But we've also we've stepped that close to divorce twice. But of course, we've done all of our own inner work. We worked out that the other one could make the other one happy. It wasn't, all of those things. So there's this part of your relationship that is very much about the experimentation and the learning how to give and receive love. Does that feel like it resonates for you guys?
Give and receive love. Yes, because Melissa, it's interesting. Melissa, her nature is a very loving, affectionate person.
Touch, all of that. Very touchy, very love, very, very nurturing, very affectionate.
And mine, just in my upbringing, it wasn't really present in my upbringing. So certainly with my children, I tell them I love them like nonstop. And, Leo at 17, I say, I love you, buddy. Good night. And he's like, love you. But it's really important to me to express that to my children. So I have definitely changed that pattern with my children. I go through phases of being affectionate, but in general, I'm not as affectionate as Melissa is. And that's kind of, to a degree, kind of turned off some of her affection.
Which kind of sounds crazy that it would turn mine off, which is really, it's wild.
It just, I don't know, maybe it's like a bit of resentment or something, but we still have this really strong physical attraction, which is awesome. And, intimacy is awesome. It's just the day-to-day affection for me is just something which I have struggled with. Not struggle, but it's just not natural to me. And I'm curious if that speaks to anything.
It's so fascinating because there's a channel that's very important to you because it's in your most prominent area of your chart, and it's the 4037. And the 4037, what actually sits in there is tactile, like people who like to be cuddled and touched and all of those sort of things. However, if those people don't receive it as children, and this has been the research that I've done, because I actually have this channel myself and I resonate with everything that you're saying. It's the all around in our relationship. If they don't get it as a child, so I felt loved, but I was never told that they love me, and I was never cuddled, never held, nothing like that. It's almost like this goes to the other polarity. This energy goes to the other polarity. And it kind of will do exactly that, nah, because it's almost like as a very young child, you were the one who really needed to be held, who really needed to be cuddled. And in my experience, I was, I went straight from my mother to a humidity crib. So I didn't get cuddled. I didn't get any of that. So it was something in me that it was so hard shut down. So one of the things for you that you could practice, so one of the things that I noticed was I would love to sit on the couch and have my feet rubbed, but that was as far as I could go, even to the point where my friends would be like, oh, I so want to give you a hug. Can I give you a hug? And I realized people wouldn't even hug me because there was obviously this thing about me, don't touch me. So over the years, I've lent into it. And now I'm at that place where I'm like, oh, I can even feel when I want that, but I still hold myself back from it. So does any of that resonate with you?
To me specifically?
Yeah.
I love affection and I love hugs and I love all that. I'm just thinking back because certainly with my friendships, all my girlfriends and boyfriends, is that what you would say?
Guy friends. You'd say guy friends.
Funny how we don't say boyfriends because there's it makes sense that you would say that, right? Girlfriends, boyfriends.
Yeah, I say that my son, I'll be like girlfriends, but not your girlfriend. So yeah, weird.
But with all of my male friends and my female friends, I'm very affectionate. Always hugging, always doing the multiple kisses. Like with the guys, like I sort of have broken down a lot of barriers with my male friends who have never hugged before, and they've all become huggers, you know.
And it's really interesting to watch because some of them, it made them so uncomfortable at the start. And Nick has really softened them, which is really beautiful. So he's done that with our friends.
Yeah, so I don't know why it's not as natural within the relationship, because I want to, but yeah.
Well, I think that's part of this is exactly what it's about. So when you have this undefined center in the relationship, you're rewriting the rule book, if you like. So one of the things, for example, in our marriage is that we had to break it and remake it a few times to actually get to that place of like, well, you know, like I want to be really one of my missions in this lifetime is the work that I do. I've always wanted to be able to do that. And that wasn't an option. You know, I also had so much trouble asking for support, but then over time I'm like, actually, I need help. And so my love language, even understanding and owning and admitting to my love language being, you know, acts of service, you know, that's what I do. I run around and help everyone else, but learning to then receive that in return. So in that Open G Center, it's like you get to rewrite the rules. Now that can feel uncomfortable because a rule that perhaps Melissa has or wants doesn't match up with something that, you know, maybe Nick has or wants, but that's the whole point. It's almost like you know, couple coaching on steroids. Like you really get to pick every little piece of what does love mean to me? What do I need to feel loved? And then put those pieces back together, because relationships that have that defined, they will come together, and the way that they are loved initially, that will pretty much stay the same throughout the whole relationship. Where with you guys, it's going to ebb and flow. So I'm sure it's shifted and changed as you guys have become parents again, so that you can, you know, that's that opportunity. And sometimes that can feel really unstable because it's like, wow, my entire identity around how I want to be loved has just changed. And all of a sudden I don't feel loved. So you actually have to consciously then put that back together. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's super interesting. I think it is definitely been a point of tension in our relationship in the past, because I'm like, why can't you just give me affection? Why can't you just stroke my hair and tickle my back and kiss me and hug me? And often it's been like, well, he didn't grow up with that. And so it's not innate within him. But I'm like, that is a story, and we get to recreate that. And I saw the most beautiful meme yesterday on social media, and it said, I can't remember who posted it or who wrote it, but it said, I want my kids to think, when they're grown up, I want my kids to think, wow, dad really loves mom. Like, and I just thought, oh, that's so beautiful. That is so beautiful. Or, wow, my parents really loved each other. You know, they were so affectionate. They loved each other. And I was like, that's definitely the affection, like physical affection. We could definitely do more of that. Like we do a bit. We definitely do. Every day we'll have a cuddle and a kiss, but I'm like, why not do more? Like, why not show our children how good it can be? Like, why not be that example for them? Because they're not going to get it anywhere else, you know? Yeah. Oh, look, you got a hand on my back. Here we go.
I love it. Yay. I love it. So good. I love what you said. I think this is really, really important. And the behavioral coach in me just wants to also just bring something, you know, that affection, there is a belief within you that the amount of affection is going to demonstrate to your children how loved you are. And that in itself, like, ooh, whoa, you know, because children, I mean, I don't even know you guys. Like, I just know you guys from the work that you put out in the world. And I can already feel the energy that you guys clearly love each other. So as a behavioralist and a parent, I want you to know that just because there's a part of you that feels like you want more affection, don't ever think at any moment that doesn't mean your children don't think you love each other. You know, my eldest or our eldest said to us, when we took a year off in 2021, bought a caravan, traveled around. It was amazing, life-changing. And my eldest was like, I want to get back to school. I miss my friends. And we were having this conversation around the campfire one night, and he just turned to me and said, "It's all right for you, Mum. You've got your best friend all the time. You two always have each other. I want that." And, you know, like, I'm the one who's not that affectionate. I'm the one that's probably like, oh God, what have I done to what have I conditioned into my children? Yet, if you just do all the stuff that you guys talk about, if you just stay present, you're going to see it reflected back at you, that they know it because they feel it. It's a frequency. It's not something we do. It's, you know, parenting 101. We can tell them what we think they should do until we're blue in the face, but they're only going to follow our actions. They're only going to follow what we do. So they already know it. They know through the energy that you two have for each other. It doesn't matter whether you're, you know, kissing and cuddling enough. That's just a belief system.
Yeah, that's so true. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. It's so true. It's so true because you can feel it. It's energy. It's all energy.
I'm off the hook.
I love it. I love it so much. So I'm really conscious of your time. So we're kind of getting to the end of it. I really want to ask you guys this question. I want to ask you guys separately, how will you measure your life at the end of your life? Like, what is it important? Legacy is a massive thing for me. Like, what is the legacy that I'm going to leave behind? But how are you guys going to measure your life?
Yeah, that's a good question. I did a branding exercise years ago for my musical brand, Nick Broadhurst. And that was one of the questions that I was asked. And they wanted me to draw images of basically how that felt. And I just kept drawing love hearts. So my logo essentially became this three-dimensional love heart, geometric sort of love heart. And what I meant by that was, I want people to think of me, whether it's someone who doesn't know me but knows my music or my other work or my friends and family, and just kind of feel warm and fuzzy.
I love that.
Because we can talk to legacy in terms of like, oh, I impacted this many people and this many people read my book and I had like 2 billion streams and It's all good. But ultimately, how did you make people feel? I don't think there's anything more important than that, personally. I mean, look, you could be Warren Buffett and you could impact people in a profound way by being the example of, you know, the best investor of all time. And that can change people's wealth, and that's a different thing, and that's still amazing legacy. But for me, I'm such a heart sort of guy. I feel like it's how did I make people feel? And hopefully I can make, I would like billions of people to be touched by what I do. But at the core of it is that feeling.
I love that. I love that. And I think like human design helps us as well to understand that we all have something different. You know, we're all going to have a different answer, and our answer is perfect, you know. And I love that. It's one of my favorite, it's Maya Angelou quotes, isn't it? You know, it doesn't matter what you do, it's how you make people feel, or something like that. I just totally resonate. I love it. Thank you.
There's that quote that really sticks with me. It's like, no one will remember, well, people don't remember what you say. They remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And it's everything. And it's something that's really important to me, is like every interaction. How can I leave people better, happier, more in their heart? How can I make them feel like they are the most important person in the world? That's what I want. I want people at my funeral, I want them to say, she made me feel like I was the most important person on this planet, with her presence, with her generosity, with her heart, with her love. She made me feel like I was the most important person. And she was the same wherever she went. You know, I don't want people to go, oh, well, she was different with that person, and then she was different with that person. Like, I want people to feel safe with me. I want them to feel like they are fully seen. I want them to feel fully seen. And this requires me to be present. It requires me to be in my heart. It's an exercise that will not work if I'm in my head, you know? And, you know, we're always growing and evolving. And as long as we're doing the best that we can and speaking our truth and being honest with the people around us, then we're doing the best that we can. But that's how I'd love for people to share about me at my funeral.
I love that. And, you know, just from whether, as I say, reading the books, listening to the music, being a part of the podcast, all of it, I feel like both of you really exude that energy, you know. I even remember, I can't remember the name of the song, but it was a while ago. And, you know, Melissa was in the video clip swimming in the pool. And I was just like, wow, this is the real deal. Like, you could feel that you guys weren't doing it to show off, or you weren't doing it for the metrics. You could tell that it was really real. And I want to reflect back to both of you that I'm pretty confident that everyone feels that love that you guys put out into the world. And I want to say thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. That song is called The One. And obviously it was written about me, which
it's off the album. Thank you.
You are so welcome. I love it. So obviously we've talked a lot about the book, but how else can people find the work that you're doing in the world? Both of you have your own podcasts. Please share that with our listeners.
Yeah, so come and check me out, Nick Broadhurst, on Spotify and Enobe, which is ENOBE. Enobe is my pop project. It's a lot of fun if you like to boogie. And actually Bambi's favorite song, our daughter, is called Red Light Song. She calls it the Yeah Yeah song.
I love it.
Because it starts, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So
it's on repeat every day. Every time we get in the car, I'm like, can we listen to another one? Yeah, yeah song. Yeah, yeah song. It's always on.
Always. I just released a song last week called Grow, which people are really loving. So please go and check that one out. Yeah.
Yep,
thank you.
Enjoying that.
And just on Instagram, at Nick Broadhurst is the best way to connect with me.
And for me, I've got my podcast, The Melissa Ambrosini Show. Please come and subscribe to that. I release a new episode every Wednesday. There's lots of incredible interviews, and I also do some solo episodes in there. And then on Instagram, at Melissa Ambrosini. I've got my website, melissaambrosini.com, and you can get any of my meditations or join Holy Mama, which is my community where I support beautiful mamas to be heart-centered in every phase of their journey. And so, yeah, you can sign up to my newsletter list, and so you get all of the juicy goodness. But yeah, come and connect on Instagram with both of us and tell us what you loved from this conversation. I'd love to meet you. I would love to connect with you. I absolutely, being a generator, I am a people person. Absolutely love people. I'm an Aries as well in astrology. So I am a people person. I'm an extrovert. I love it. I could be with people all the time. And so if I can't meet you in person, come and introduce yourself to me online. I absolutely love connecting with new people.
So good. I love that. Well, thank you, both of you, for spending a little bit of time with me talking about this incredible book, about the work that you do in the world, and even your human design. It's been great fun. Thanks.
Thank you so much for having us. This has been so much fun.
Oh, good. You're so welcome. And thanks everyone for listening. I trust that you got what you needed from today's episode, and go and check these guys out. They're awesome. So thanks for being with me, and I look forward to having you on the next pod.
Thanks everyone for being here all the way to the end of the podcast. I hope you got lots of value out of it. I certainly had a lot of fun doing it. Could I please ask that you share this podcast with friends if you found it valuable? And also, bonus points, could you leave a review for me as well on Apple? It would be greatly appreciated. If at any point you would like to be on the podcast, or you've got questions that you'd like me to discuss on the podcast, by all means get on my socials and DM me. Everything you need is there in the show notes. Have an awesome day. Bye for now.